This is Boomer Life on CIL 650.
Welcome back to Boomer Life on CIL 650. I'm George Gordon. Are you where you want to be with your financial planning? Are you with the right person that's going to help you meet your goals? What does that person do to make sure that you're meeting your goals? A lot of questions to do when it comes to financing. It means that you have to have trust. And on Boomer Life today, we have a couple of people who have learned about trust and learned about performance and helping people. Jim Doyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group Financial Services, exploring how to access retirement resources. Not that easy. And joining us a little bit later, Paige Brettle and her planning perspective since coming into the industry. Now, before the break, Jim, we were talking about, as an investor, who should I be going to and what should I be asking of them? It's a tough thing to let go of that fear of handing over your money to somebody. And, you've done a good job of explaining risk and volatility here so far. So now I'm in your office and I'm asking, how are you going to make my money get bigger and how are you going to get me to that point where I can live comfortably? We're bold investors when markets are good and not so good when markets become volatile.
How true. If someone says they're a moderate risk investor, and I show them, a dividend fund that made 15% in 2016, but went down 23% in 2008, how does this affect their investment decision? I think so many expectations are hurt because these types of discussions didn't happen when the investments were initially acquired.
More disclosure then?
I think that's huge. I don't think there's enough to talk about in current performance or expectations without talking about the downside that could exist or could possibly occur.
So should an investor get clear on their risk profile first, or should they get clear on their investment philosophy?
For sure, risk tolerance first. I think it's a hard task for a client to articulate how much risk they can actually tolerate, and it puts more onus on the advisor to determine the client's true risk profile.
So when you take the time to think about it, it does take some effort to describe it well.
A few weeks ago, I sat down with a client whose husband was facing some serious health issues. She seemed overwhelmed with what was going on and what was upcoming. She wanted to know where the money was going to come from to pay for things and things she hadn't even considered yet. She had been recommended to us, and I sensed that this was comforting to her, but her risk profile, that was nowhere near the top of her mind.
I presume most financial firms, when you open an account, you have a printed form with a series of questions. You check the appropriate box, and this tool helps determine your risk profile and investment objectives. Once you're a client, however, isn't the job of your KYC or Know Your Client form that you need to fill out, is it an annual thing?
What I've seen over the years, people meet with their advisors and they sign their KYC or the Know Your Client forms without much discussion about what it actually means. Clients can be fickle about risk, overestimating their level of tolerance.
So what I'm hearing is advisors need to look beyond the KYC document and the client's own claims of their risk tolerance. If getting a true reading of a client's risk profile is important, what ways can you help determine an accurate risk profile?
I have 4 ways to help provide both the client and myself with clarity. First, establish a client's investment time horizon. Second, as we've mentioned, look beyond the KYC document, which puts people in predetermined boxes, like conservative, moderate, or aggressive, okay?
How do you do that?
Well, I think if we talk about using more informal methods, it really comes down to asking lots of questions. It allows us to dig deeper. The KYC, or the Know Your Client questionnaire, is a regulatory requirement gauging clients' risk tolerance, but it's not enough to fully assess your risk tolerance or profile when dealing with variables like your objectives, time horizon, or the psychological aspect of risk.
Now, everybody wants to be on the road to a comfortable retirement, but knowing how to get there is a different story. A lot is being made about the wonderful things that we can do in retirement. For many Canadians, though, the dream just doesn't live up to reality. And if you want to change that, you need to find somebody you can trust, somebody who can talk to you, hear you out, and then help you move on and make your plan. You can reach Jim Doyle, 604-682-5431. You can email him at jimdoyle@investorsgroup.com. Just a couple of minutes, if we could, Jim, about when you're dealing with people. If I'm coming to talk to you, it's not going to be one meeting, one form, and there we go. You like to sit down. You like to get to know the people that you're going to help.
Well, this is my chosen way of doing this, okay? I think I want to talk about, where you're coming from, what you understand, what you fear, what you expect, okay, what your knowledge is already. And then we can talk about how it is that, we might be the right people to help you, or possibly maybe we're not the right people to help you. But first it has to start with that goals discussion. And that's where I think the real meat of this is.
I think that's so true for so many people. I'll give myself as an example that for a lot of years when I was making income and I would invest, and some were good and some not so good. But when it came down to where do I want to be? When do I want to retire? What do I think I'm going to be able to live on? It was like the big light came on and the little chill ran up and down my spine. And I think that a lot of people, and you don't have to be 50 years old, although if you haven't learned by 50 that you have to have a plan, it makes it a lot tougher to achieve it. Is that one of your main jobs, is to put on that light so people look inward and see what they really think of themselves and where they want to be?
I think there's a real tendency to want to get into products and performance real early in the discussion. And I think my greatest value is by saying, let's hold that up a little bit. Let's talk about what it looks like and how it needs to look like. And then we can talk about what we're going to use and what we're going to do to potentially make that happen.
Do you have younger clients coming in? Like I know we'll be talking to Paige about this, but are people starting to get that light bulb a lot earlier in life? Well,
I'm starting to see a bit more of the younger client base. We're often dealing with multi-generational families, and that means they have very different opinions and perspectives than mom and dad have with regards to money and their values on life.
Okay, then here's the other side of that question. When is it too late to start this planning process? Is there some point where that's too bad that you've left it this long, you're doomed? Or is it never too late to start making that plan?
I'd always like to suggest for most people, it never hurts if you can improve your situation just a little bit, okay? And that's what I try and do. If I get to start early enough, there's a lot of things that we can do. And if we're starting extremely late in the process, chances are there's only a few things that we can do.
How many people have you seen that have been terrified about what they have or don't have?
I think if we're real honest for an awful lot of people, there's an incredible amount of insecurity around their financial situation, their investment knowledge, their futures. There's an awful lot of unknowns. And unburdening that to somebody, okay, I think that's a real challenge.
Well, if you do that, then you have to admit some culpability. You have to admit, I might be wrong here, that I may have messed up. And a lot of people have a hard time admitting that.
It's about setting the foundation to have these conversations, about setting the foundations to be vulnerable, okay, to admit what you don't know and what you fear, okay? And I want to create that open environment to have those conversations.
Do you find in these conversations as you go along that people often begin to understand, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that doesn't understand everything that needs to be understood. I'm not the only one that hasn't made a proper plan. And do you find that that's sometimes what holds people back, is that I'm stupid. I've just done dumb things, and I don't want to tell anybody I'm stupid. What do they when they get freedom, when the truth frees them? What is that like?
Well, I sat down with a dentist last week, and he's a little bit concerned that he's left a lot of his planning much later in life. Okay. And I said to him, listen, you know all the nerves of the mouth. Okay. I haven't got a clue what they are. Okay. So when I need dental work, I want to go see somebody like you. That's what you're all about. okay? And when it comes to this investment stuff, it's not innate knowledge, okay? You're not born with it, okay? It's something that you need to learn and develop over time. I want to create that sense that we can talk about these types of things without you feeling embarrassed, without you feeling uncomfortable, okay, to talk about these things.
I think that's a very important point, and if you who are out there listening have felt that I'm afraid to admit just how kind of negligent I've been, I didn't mean to be, but I'm not sure I can tell anybody, you are not alone. There's a whole generation and a half, I think, of us out there, maybe more, that can do an awful lot better. And if people in my age, 60 plus, and that's all I'll admit to, have not done our planning, then we become a burden on the next generation, and we don't want to do that. So it's important for, as you say, somebody who is, say, 50, 55, who hasn't done some planning. Well, you can help them a bit, and if you can help them a bit, then you can help the next generation coming up, so that they're not burdened with trying to raise your kids and put them through school and taking care of mom and dad who didn't take care of their pennies in the first place.
A couple of decades ago, I lived in an apartment building that had a swimming pool, okay? And I used to go there, and I would swim maybe 4 laps, and that was a good workout for me, okay? And after a year of living there, I could swim 100 laps, okay? It was just a process that I built myself up over a period of time. And I think the planning stuff kind of goes in the same sort of thing, okay? The more you know, the more choices you can make, with more confidence, okay? And, the whole goal for me at the end of the day is to make myself something that you don't necessarily need. But getting there, that can be a longer journey.
You're listening to Boomer Life on CL 650. I'm George Gordon, and today we're talking with Jim Doyle, Senior Financial Consultant with the Investors Group. When we come back, I want to carry on with this discussion of risk, and I know that you're going to tell us about the importance of understanding your financial DNA. Next on Boomer Life.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.